therefore she is in violation of the court order. I didn't just say like, yeah, carte blanche, just send me.
Hello. Give me 1 second while I get dialed. Me telling everybody I'm going live, and then here's the link. Okay, let's see.
Is a pathway to hold a lawyer accountable for the fees that they have charged you, because there's rules to like how they have to bill. For example, if they represent you in a domestic violence case and a family law case, they have to bill you separately. So Brianna Cornwall just took $114,000 from me. Never anywhere did I see a bill for that. I didn't agree to a carte blanche payment. I said, I want the bills. She never provided the bills. So therefore, she's in violation of the court order. I didn't just say like, yeah, carte blanche, just send me, fucking just put a number down. $114,000 and 278 cents. It's like, that's not how this works. That's called extortion. That's called wire fraud. That's called you're going to fucking jail, losing your law license. Dan, follow along. So I'm going to go over to YouTube and do a YouTube.
All right. So I'm back because it took me, gosh, it's August now. It's taken me about 3 months to, well, I started the fee arbitration process with attorney Sherry Perlman, bar license number 77735. She is inactive with the California State Bar. Weirdly, she retired in May 2025 after I sent her numerous letters saying, hey, Miss Perlman, I kind of feel like you majorly fucked me over in this case. And like a lot of bad things have happened since then. And so, oh, hi, Renata. Nice to meet you. Yes. Okay, I've seen your messages. Sorry, I haven't gotten a chance to respond. Okay, sorry. Bad ADD. I will focus up. So where I'm going with all this is fee arbitration is the process, at least in the state of California. Every bar has their own rules for how you can hold a lawyer accountable. And what you do is you initiate a conversation with the attorney about their bill and the reasonableness and if they did it correctly. In the state of California, the rules are very, very clear that an attorney has to provide very like specific billing. So I'll walk you guys through in another like tutorial the exact breakdown of like what you need to ask them and how you ask them and like how you chase it down, because I actually got $3,000 back from one attorney just by holding them accountable to the bill and them not like doing it exactly how they say. Turns out I probably could have gotten all $10,000 back from them, but at the time I was in trauma and I just wanted to be away from them because they weren't representing my best interest. And I was like, oh, this is just another person who's going to literally bankrupt me for their own profit in family court. So I was like, you know what, walking away and just going pro se is going to be the win. And I didn't know that that would be the thing that family court would then like use to try to get me arrested and all that, because as soon as you're not represented, that's when they really start coming at you hard, because they're like, oh, let's get them on a criminal front. Let's get them on a legal front, because they know they won't get away with that if they have like a lawyer on the case. So where we're going with this is in the state of California, there's very specific billing rules. I will go through all those when I show my bills for Volchek, and Swire. My attorney is like currently negotiating with them to see whether or not they want to basically turn state witness and admit that they were ineffective counsel, but also turn on my ex-husband's attorney, who is in so much hot water. Like, she's the devil. And she's finally being held accountable, and her sins are now plain as day for the world to see. And it feels good because I'm like, yeah, look, now everybody can clearly see this woman literally did kidnap my children for her literal profit. Now, some other things. One, my ex-husband still stalks me. He follows all my content. He is watching this right now, I am certain, whether it's live or eventually. So as always, I have to be very careful about like revealing where I'm at, what I'm doing and all that. And I know that anything I put out there, he can and will use against me if it's something he thinks he can use to his benefit. So Dan, I'm actually going to give you something beneficial. One, we all reasonably suspect that you are having an inappropriate relationship with your attorney. Why do I say that? Well, because I was a military wife and mil spouse networks work real good when somebody's having an affair or anything like that. And they're like, Autumn, we've been seeing her in your car around town. I'm like, guys, I really don't care. I wish him well. I wish them well. But then they're like, yeah, but if he's his attorney, if she's his attorney and they're like having a relationship while you're still going through your case and they didn't meet before the case and have a relationship, then that's like inappropriate. She could lose her license and he could get like a decrease in rank for conduct unbecoming, because we were still technically married when it would have started. Now, that's for the two of them to admit under oath or not. But the good part is he just like made a wild ass accusation against my attorney. So turnabout is totally fair play and everything is in bounds now. Because unlike him, I'm not a sadist and I don't enjoy seeing women in pain. Or anyone in pain. And I have no doubt that he has done to her what he did to me, which is like control, dominate, just like there's one fruit fly in here. Manipulate, control, dominate, influence, like control her thinking, control her, just everything. And what's so amazing is now we are heading into a discovery phase of all this, and we're going to get to see, okay, what did you actually bill me for, Cornwall? Like, according to state laws, you had to submit this, this, and this. You didn't. Why didn't you? Now, let's do a little bit of angel's advocacy. Instead of devil's advocate, let's do angel's advocate, right? Angel's advocate. My ex-husband's a trash bucket, and he got his attorney to do a lot of evil shit, but she did it of her own volition, and out of her own pure greed, right? That's the only reason why she would have done all this is greed. Also, if you've seen Silence of the Lambs, she's the Bill character, like the Wild Bill, like it puts the lotion on its skin, it does as it's told. She literally wants to skin me and wear me. Like the jealousy seeps out of her pores. It's wild. And I really didn't want to see that at first. And then once I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is seriously like Revenge of the Nerds. I was the pretty smart girl in high school and all the boys liked me. And you were like the mousy girl that nobody liked. It's like, girl, you could have been my bestie if you just wouldn't have been such a twat, but you're a real fucking twat. You're annoying. Like, you're like this. She's like this fly that's just like everywhere. And you're like, go away, sit down, give us 5 minutes. And then maybe when you're not being fucking annoying as shit, you can come sit with us. Ugh, that's Brianna Cornwall. It's really sad. And she clearly has a mother wound because I can't find her mom anywhere online. I found her dad. She's from Missouri, which is interesting also because Missouri is where like the family court cabal is really active. And then she went to law school in San Diego, where she where the trafficking network with the cabal is also super active. And then here's the wild part. I've been in Houston meeting with lawyers. She was a real estate agent here, which I feel like I should show this. Let me see if I can find her picture really quick. And I'll put it on the screen. Because I've been calling her Brianna Ochoa Cornwall for so long, but I have not been able to find a picture of her. And now, what did I find? Where is it? I'll just show it on my phone. If you go to my Instagram, it's all on there. But she apparently used to have a law license here not law license, rental license. There it is. Here she is, Brianna Ochoa Cornwall. Let's just go ahead and pop over to that screen. Share screen. We're sharing. Allow. You see it? There we go. Okay, so there she is, Brianna Ochoa. So that's here in Texas. So I've been doing a bunch of deep dives into her real estate dealings here in the like Sugarland, Katy, Houston, just this greater Galveston area where it's pretty interesting. I'm not going to talk about that right now because that's part of the bigger picture that's unfolding. But I found her, Brianna Ochoa. That's her, right? Let's zoom in just so everybody's certain we're looking at this correct. Yep, that's her. That's her years and years and years ago. And this is something that we're noticing is these attorneys and judges who are part of the Epstein class are changing their names. And if we go to her current website, let's just Google her, Brianna. When you Google that number, I'm sorry, that name, that's like really the only Brianna that shows up. And then if we share here, let's pull it up. Okay, so when you Google Brianna Cornwall, you can get her bar license, you can get all that. Pop over to her search. Here we go. Okay, so she had the beautiful Yelp reviews that were up for her taken down. This is what she looks like now. You can see like older pictures of her. Which how is this? Like that must be her power suit because she wore it 15 years ago when she looked like that. That's what she looks like. So this is the version that my ex may or may not be banging. We're not sure. If he is, he's not going to be able to do fee arbitration, which is the whole point of this YouTube video. So Dan, if you're watching and you're currently hurt, because we know that's how you get off, or I should say, if this woman is currently being hurt by you, she's not a victim because she willingly entered a extortion. Like she willingly was like, yeah, let's extort this woman, which is why in June she freaked the fuck out that through the deal, my ex was able to see the evidence that I offered her a settlement negotiation in February 24 that would have prevented all this. So she forced the sale of our home through these stipulations. Sherry Perlman, which we're about to go through her judgment of how she signed these stipulations and then bounced. Perlman's going to be like, I'm out. She already threw her hands up. She's already like, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want nothing. I don't want nothing to do with none of this. What do you need me to say about Brianna Cornwall? I'm here for it. So we've got Sherry Perlman right where we want her, which is in the witness seat, where she's going to go in and say, on this date, at this time, I signed these stipulations. Did I know that Miss Manelik-Seibel did not agree to them? Yes, I did, because oh shit, fuck balls. There's 100 pages of evidence that show that she emailed me that said, no, don't sign this. I don't agree. There's no possible way. So this is where the extortion by Brianna Cornwall starts. She comes into it and she's like, my pretty, I know how I'll get you off the hook for clearly hurting your wife. We will press these criminal charges as hard as we can. We'll get her ringed up on those and then easy peasy lemon squeezy. Well, the Monterey County District Attorney saw the actual video of my ex coming in and out of the house 9 times on the night of November 20th, 2023, when he claims I committed domestic violence against him by pushing him in a bathroom to get past him that I had asked him a dozen times to get out of because he was being inappropriate with our daughters. So that's step 1. He also lied, said he was locked out. Well, it's kind of hard to say you're locked out of a home that you have a key and 2 garage door openers to. And also the baby monitor footage saw you walking in and out of the house 9 times during the period you claim you were locked out. Weirdly, if you go back and look at that footage, click around my YouTube, he's got his like hands in his pants during it, which is like the most uncomfortable thing to be caught on video camera doing when you're like, oh yeah, quick, cops, come quick. My kids are in danger. And you're standing in the backyard, casually walking back and forth on the phone with your hand in your pants. Can somebody make it make sense for me? Because I can't make that make sense. So Sherry Perlman, my attorney, has already admitted, yes, Ms. Seibel did not sign these stipulations. Let me come back to my live stream. Ms. Seibel did not sign these stipulations. She didn't sign these stipulations. That's it. And the people asked her like, well, did you do anything to retract them? Whatever. No. And you can see very clearly from her like date of entry, date of exit into the case where everything went wrong. And it was right when Cornwall came in. And my wondering is, I wonder, Did Perlman see the writing on the wall with all this and just go like, this is a young woman's game. I'm not going to extort this family with this lady. Because Perlman knew I was a victim. She had 200 pages of medical evidence that showed I was a victim, and she had it in her possession. So there's no way that she can say she didn't know. And so when she's going to be sitting on the stand under oath being questioned, she's going to have to answer like, did you know that this woman was being abused? She'd be like, yes. And it's like, and did you speak to her medical providers? Yes. And did you have over 200 pages of documentation that showed she was being abused, past and present, through past abuse and current litigation? All answers will be yes. Why? Because emails. The record clearly reflects it. We have faxes. We have everything that shows on this date she got the medical records. On this date she billed me to review the medical records. So this is how you can use attorneys' bills to go back and hold them accountable. Okay. And again, to my ex-husband, who we all know watches this, if you genuinely are like ready to enter your hero's arc or your like villain redemption arc because you're a giant asshole, you're a sadist, you're vindictive and cruel, and everybody sees you now because we had to show the world your true behavior because you tried to have me arrested. The Monterey County District Attorney said, no, sir, we saw the video footage, you cray. Then, oh, God is so good. You were like, that's it, she's crazy. She's crazy. Let's do that. Let's force her into a bunch of fucking psyche vows that then you charged me for. How could a crazy person afford $50,000 in psyche vows? Right? That's not what we do to people who are crazy. We get them into treatment. We get them into rehab. We get them into, housing. You did none of those things. You forced me to sleep in my car without heat. You cut off all of the credit card bills after being a 17-year stay-at-home wife, and we shared all accounts. You cut those off, so I had no finances, no food, no housing, and you forced me to rely on my family, who then said to you, hey, bro, you're being like real fucking weird about this. Like, maybe you should not. And then you said, I'm going to force her to come back crawling on her hands and knees to me. And I was like, over my dead fucking body. Then, as the criminal charges are starting to like wane out because you're realizing, oh shit, they caught me in a lie, you start to cover your tracks by calling me crazy because I was exhibiting signs of trauma because I was in active fucking trauma that you caused by having me falsely arrested. By the way, guys, if you're wondering about how you can set up a personal injury tort claim against your abuser, because Canada just passed a law that allows them to do that, and the United States has our own versions of those laws that are already on the books that we don't even need to advocate for, here's how. You cause an injury, you then falsely have the person arrested. And when the criminal justice system plays out and that person is not guilty, you then say, well, actually, they're crazy. Okay, if she was crazy, then that thing you accused her of means that she was disabled when you accused her and you had a fucking disabled person arrested. Let that sink in. Just because somebody has a disability that you can't see doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I was in my pajamas all day, crying most of the night because I have really bad PTSD and I have horrific nightmares from the abuse that my ex-husband put me through and the prolonged parental alienation and parental separation, intentional mother-child sabotage that he is still putting me through, using the courts to do it. So how do I reclaim my sanity and my dignity and my resources and my assets? I sue the living shit out of them. And that's what we're doing now. We set up intentional torts, intentional distress torts. There's different types that you can file under. So depending on what your evidence is, this is what you want to, file against. And Dan, I'm fully putting this out there that if you just want to do the right thing and remove Cornwall from your case, sue her for doing this to you, even though we know you are doing it, and then offer me a settlement and a mea culpa that puts our kids at the very fucking top of the list, that is their safety, their health, their wellness, their emotional well-being as the top thing, we can settle our debt later. We can settle the debt that even the church says you owe me. I talked to like 5 priests and they were like, when this was all happening after you tried to arrange the exorcism with Father Omar, which don't even fucking act like you didn't. You set that up. You talked me into it. You're the fucking Catholic cradle cradle Catholic. I was a convert, and you're like, hey, you know what we should do? Get you an exorcism. You know what that's kind of like, Dan? Anal on the first date. And you know what that means. Going back. Actually, first date. Okay. Or first whatever. So I digress. That was a lot. Sometimes I forget that I have to make sure that I'm getting you guys the information that you need so you can continue fighting through family court while also remembering that my asshole ex watches all this. And so sometimes when I'm trying to like plant landmines for him to fall into, I have to remember that I've already planted those and he already fell into them. And now is my opportunity to give him the chance to just surrender. But if he doesn't want to surrender, we just push all the way through, because you can't be deemed a vexatious litigant if an attorney who you're not fucking does this for you. Or even if you were. Apparently, prior relationship is a caveat to that. So back to Sherry Perlman. My ex attempted to criminalize me. That didn't work. Then he attempted to pathologize me. That almost worked. But then it didn't, because the psych evals that he had me coerced into and that he made me pay for came back in my favor. You know what else they came back showing? That I had been disabled prior to him having me arrested, which means that he knowingly, intentionally had a disabled individual arrested, falsely prosecuted, and then financially devastated. And I attribute that to Brianna Cornwall, because the direction that the case was going before she came in and after she came in, I think that he was smart enough to have settled early. But he got this cocky little bitch of an attorney who was like, this girl's pretty and smart and got 3 kids that I could steal because I got a barren womb. Game on. Let's bug her up. What she didn't count on is the fact that I am genuinely a good person and genuinely kept trying to be like, hey, can we settle this? Can we fix this? Can we do this? And I kept giving grace where it wasn't deserved, where it wasn't even smart for me to do, in the best interest of my children. So they're pretty spooked right now because we are in a appeal, and they have said I'm a vexatious litigant because I didn't know how to file some paperwork when I was pro se. Oh, okay. I knew that trap was coming. Vexatious litigants are what these attorneys label parents who don't know how to file their paperwork exactly perfectly, but are doing it pro se, label us. And it's their way of like stemming the tide. And you can actually go back and see exactly when, or I'll go back and show you guys exactly when she labeled me a vexatious litigant. It was literally right after I nailed her ass to the cross on a defective proof of service, where she knew that she had violated a protective order. And she knew that if I was able to get her overseas legal secretary, who doesn't even live in America, on the stand, which I wouldn't have been able to, it would have been remote, she would have lied about defective service. It would have shown that Cornwall had lied about defective service, meaning like she claimed that service was made in one place when it wasn't. She would have had to perjure herself. She would have opened herself up for subjugation of perjury, yada, yada, yada. So the best part is Cornwall flaked on like 2 of our hearings in June in June that I wasn't represented for the first one. And I like took them out. I didn't get exactly what I needed out of that, but I got my ex to do the most beautiful thing, put something on the record for me, which was that all protective orders, that all orders previously made in that case stay on the case, which includes a real funny thing called a protective order that Brianna Cornwall signed in May 2024. Now, I know this is a lot to follow, but we can track it through Sherry Perlman's fee arbitration. And that's what we're going to do now, because what you need to do, the first step that you need to do in holding these attorneys accountable is fee arbitration. Fee arbitration, fee arbitration, fee arbitration. Because at the very least, fee arbitration will stop them from putting a lien on your assets so they can't come collect on your house or anything like that. So if you have sanctions, if you have anything, you need to initiate fee arbitration. It stems the tide, because the only thing that the fee arbiter is looking at is, are the fees that were charged reasonable? Now, I'm going to let Claude summarize it for you. And then I'm going to play this thing by Meg about like money and funding? No, we'll end with that. So I'm going to let Claude summarize it for you. I'm going to read the judgment, and then we're going to end with this other thing so that you can see how this all kind of comes together and how the very first thing that you can do right now today to stem the tide in family court, if you've been like subject to sanctions or you've had a bad judgment, is enter fee arbitration, FEE arbitration. How do I spell it? Arbitration. ARBITRATIONS. Fee arbitration. As always, find me over on Instagram and I will explain all this more in detail. And I'm going to like actually maybe at some point do like a class on how you can do this, because I never once expected to get anything from any of these people except the truth, except the record. And that's really all I was doing, was preserving the record, because now I'm in an appeal and I got let me show you something, because this is actually important. And the reason why fee arbitration is so important is that you can take something like this finding that I got, file it into your case as just like a notice of record, and you go into the, here we go. Like I'm in the 6th District Court of Appeals. You can then bring all of this up into the higher court. Okay, so designating, there we go. So designating the record. Designating the an appeal process. The Court of Appeal needs to see what happened in the trial court to determine if any mistakes were made. So this is also called the docket, the Register of Actions, or the case docket. Both sides in this case work to designate or choose which part of the trial court they want to send to the Court of Appeals. In my case, it's the 6th District. The trial court does not automatically send everything to the Court of Appeal. So it's important to decide carefully. Now, I learned this lesson the hard way during my writ and stay, which I haven't shared too much about, but during my writ and stay, I got 5 volumes of evidence in. My 6th and 7th, which were my like boom shakalaka evidence, didn't get entered. I was learning. I was by myself. I had a little bit of help from other family court survivors, but I didn't have a lawyer. Like I was really like doing it on my own, right? And I didn't expect, I had tried to do an appeal in 2024 and I got blown out of the water. I didn't even make it past like emailing them. So when I finally did it in the spring of 2025, I was like, this is literally all I'm doing. I'm like going to go homeless. I'm going to go broke. I'm not going to eat. This is all I'm doing. And in doing so, I was able to preserve the lower court's record, catch them in 3 transcript edits in real time, show the defective trial that happened, show that my ADA, my disability rights were being violated. Because if we go back to the very beginning, the genesis of this case, it was a disabled mom who, I might have a hidden disability, but I still have a disability. And you guys can probably all see it from time to time, or all the fucking time if you actually watch my content and you're not like a troll just being like, she's crying on the internet. My tears have a purpose, and it is to show you that this is the real version of a woman with really bad PTSD from childhood sexual abuse and intimate partner violence in my own marriage. And then really bad ADHD, because my brain before all of this was like a little bit bouncy, but I could always stay pretty focused because I had that external pressure of my ex-husband always like bearing down on me. And there was a consequence if I didn't act a certain way or do something a certain way. Now I'm like just left to my own devices, and my ADD is like bing, 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 all over the place. And the fact that I can even get anything done at any point is a miracle. For example, right now, I can't even like concentrate on doing anything because I don't have a bra on. And I'm like, I wonder if my bra. So I'm going to put a bra on really quickly while Claude explains. No, I'm going to finish the Court of Appeal. Then I'm going to put a bra on, then Claude, then the judgment, then Meg. Whew, that's ADD. That is like real life ADD. Okay. So in an appeal, both sides in the case work to designate or choose what part of the trial court record they want to send to the Court of Appeals. The trial court doesn't automatically send everything to the Court of Appeals, so it's important to decide carefully. This is why filing everything into your case for like a notice of for judicial notice is so important, because then it's like, boom, I filed ineffective counsel. And the judge like, why the fuck did you file this? I'm like, good, I'm going to take this on appeal. I'm going for appeals. And then Cornwall was like, vexatious litigant, oh fucking shitballs, ah! And that's how they get you to like stop. But it's like, oh, guess what? You can't be deemed a vexatious litigant if literally everything you're litigating is still in litigation and no final judgments are found, and you are doing so in good faith, and you're just like appealing the regular record. And that's why like my fee arbitration, which is non-binding, which means I could go to a jury trial. I don't think I'm going to, because I got what I wanted out of this. It's like you could have multiple things going at the same time. And even if you're found guilty or not guilty on them, as long as you don't relitigate those same facts, you can litigate different facts. You're good. So the parts of the trial court sent to the Court of Appeals. So it goes Superior Court, Appeals Court, Federal Court, or Supreme Court. Superior Court is the local, like Monterey County. The 6th District Appeals Court is the it's like got like 4, 5, 6 counties within it. And then the Supreme Court is over all the counties in the state. So you got to kind of think of it like same way you would go for, if you were a high school football team, you'd play local, just your district. And then you go to regional, so which is like everybody within that bigger region. And then you go state, and it's everybody's in there. So the courts are sort of similar, are very similar. So when you manage the court of trial, the parts of the trial court sent to the Court of Appeals from the lower court to higher is called the record on appeal. When you make your arguments in the appeal, you can only use information that is in the record. Likewise, the Court of Appeal will only consider what's in the record when making the decision. So although the appellant, me, the person appealing, takes the lead, so I'm leading, it's important that the respondent, my asshole ex and his attorney, the other party, also be involved in choosing the parts of the trial court record that help their side. This process can be complicated and costly, but there are resources to guide you, and it's helpful to get advice from a lawyer. So here's the best part. They don't want to be in this appeal because now everything they did is subject to a second look, and they got away with it in the first place because they would do all the findings in order after hearing, and they knew that as a pro se litigant, I wasn't getting that information. So I had to keep looking and looking and looking. Meanwhile, they had it all, and there's all like Fugazi, or however you say that word. And so they were just putting whatever they wanted. Now, if you are a pro se parent, the very first thing you want to do is get your court clerk's email, call the self-help center, wherever you are, and get a register of actions. So in any case that's been closed, it's like, that's it. It's done. There's nothing going back into it. So you want to get a final register of actions. So I went through and I got a register of actions for our 2 underlying cases where I can go back and I can be like, well, actually, that's weird. On May 22nd, 2024, it looks like a stipulation was filed. Am I not wrong? No, it's filed. And that's how you can go back and figure out what documents you want to put into the Court of Appeals. So, like I said, a closed case will be like done, final. So I've got our 2 old cases there. And then our current one, which is ongoing, I need to contact them and get an updated register of actions because the last register of actions ends 4/16. Okay, so the last time I printed anything, no. Yes. Okay. 4/16 is the last time I printed a register of actions. And granted, I got this directly from the clerk so that I know it was complete, but you can also just go to your, like county's dashboard. Every county does it different. Now, the reason why you want to constantly be downloading your register of action and taking screenshot is because shit will disappear. It will come off and on. That's how I busted them in the lower court, making 3 copies of the trial transcript. I'm sorry. Why is this coming on and off? That's weird. If you don't catch them in real time, that's okay. You just subpoena that data, it's metadata in discovery. And again, this is going to cost you a lot of time and energy unless you have an amazing attorney who knows how to do this. Mine happens to know how to do this, but I just got lucky. I just happened to go to college with this person, and we're in the same alumni group, and another survivor connected us because I was doing all of my own work. Like, I was doing this work. And then she's like, maybe you would benefit from some help. I'm like, yeah, duh. But again, it's beneficial to do your own research. And so go and get a register of actions, and then you can see everything that's happened in your case. Now, for example, okay, this is what my register of actions looks like. And I have like a PDF copy of it, but I'm not going to bother getting it and showing it because I don't know where I saved it. And it has just like everything, right? And then you're going to want to print it out. And remember, we clear sheet everything, family court warriors. We clear sheet. And there's a reason why we clear sheet absolutely everything. It is worth the money you would have spent on a loser attorney is worth the clear sheets that you're going to get, because then you're going to have a record to show how hard you fought. You're going to have a record for your damages, and you're going to have a record where once you get to your register of actions that shows all of the court dates, right? So it's like it was held, who was the court reporter, what happened, da, da, da. You then get down to the document section. So this is the schedule of events, and it shows you like every time you showed up in court. Now, granted, you were probably super traumatized and like don't even remember most of these days. You might have been puking in the parking lot, hyperventilating in the bathroom, not sleeping and eating for days or weeks before and after, shitting blood. That's another one. Losing your hair. Some people, teeth falling out, eyelash, like anything. You might have been going through some real fucking trauma. So if you don't remember this, that's normal. But according to the court, it happened. Again, check to make sure that it happened, because I have found events on my own timeline that just literally didn't. That is, again, why the metadata is so important. And these courts use third-party data centers to have all that. And so even if there's corruption within the court, right, which we know that there is, we then use the judicial system to subpoena the metadata, because Cornwall's a twat and she's probably narco installed. But is she a big enough twat to like be able to mess with the metadata of the company that services the superior court? I don't know. I heard from one of our old clients that she was dating like a Google engineer, but then she also a Silicon Valley guy. But then they also said that he was like really high. He was like a high rank and he was all these things. I was like, that kind of sounds like a military officer. And she described the ex-wife who was crazy and like talked on the internet a lot, social media, and described the 3 children, which were my children's ages. So it was kind of like weird. Just a petty side note, we'll put it aside. But do I think she's corrupt enough to influence a couple of clerks? Yes. Have the clerks in my local county now thrown her under the bus? Oh, hell yeah. They like threw her under, backed it over. They're like, would you like the printouts of where she fucked us over? I'm like, I sure would. You're such a peach. Thank you. Thank you. And now that I can see all the file stamps, I can see the clerk's records of all of this. Which once the clerks are on your side, or at least not working fucking actively against you, that's a game changer. And the reason why they stopped working on her side is she accused them back in June of like 2025 of like falsifying a document. Well, first she accused me of it and was like, and if she falsified, she put her name on my letterhead, I'm going to sue her and all. And I'm like, bro, I'm like living my best life and not wherever you are. So it wasn't me. Try again. And my attorney said the same thing. They were like, weren't you supposed to be the one to fill that out? And haven't we been waiting on you for 2 months to do this? And then the next email we got from her like assistant was Nita Patel, which Nita, blink twice if you need help. Like if you need rescued from Brianna Cornwall, we will rescue you. We already got Nirvana. Nirvana's safe. Miss White is safe. We've protected her. She admitted to the subjugation of perjury. She admitted to Cornwall, like forcing her to do all this. Like all the other witnesses are all turning tail and running. I don't know what kind of like litigation privilege she have, but like on a personal note, she is a mean girl. And you don't want to be in her mean girl crew, you can come join us because you've been decent and respectful. So Nita Patel, you work for Cornwall. the stories that her former co-counsel tell, that's how you know somebody's a good person. When you get a former employee or like a former coworker on the line and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry for everything." And I like, she made us, and they're like dime her out. That's how you know you had a mean girl boss. I'm not a mean girl. I don't want to be your boss. I want to be your friend. You can come kick it when we get the studio up and running again. I'll get a mic ready. I'll make you some coffee. If you want to have a drink, you can do that, 'cause you're probably going to need one. Like, however you want to handle this tell-all, I'm here for it. But we here at the Trebuchet podcast are genuinely concerned for the past and present employees of Cornwall Family Law. If you fear for your life, if you fear for your safety, like, all jokes aside, get a hold of me somehow. Blink twice, send a smoke screen, reach out to my attorney, and we will get you to safety, because I'm starting to see through these disclosures that these other employees are making that, like, things are not all like good in the hood over at Cornwall Family Law. And also, Cornwall, like, be better to your employees. They don't deserve that, right? They do not deserve what you've done to them. You know what you've done to them because it's all going to come out in court documents, but like, do better, right? As a female business owner, do better. Also, you're a terrible tipper from what I hear. Okay, moving on. Back to the record. Documents. So you're going to have a register of actions, which is all the events that took place, and then you're going to have the documents. And that is how you figure out what to designate on the appeal. This is, again, where the beauty of the clear sheet comes in, because we're going to, where's my marker? Oh, it's behind the computer. Okay. We're going to go through, and where it says documents, these are our scheduled events. And then up here it says documents. Again, this is why I like to do things like the old school way, as if I'm teaching you a class, because some of this is just so hard digitally to keep track of, and you miss things. Your eyes will read things once or twice and think that it's correct, but it's not. If you're not doing it like all the way, if you're not really digging in, it's not going to stick. Hold on. I think somebody's texted me with a coffee offer. Yeah, duh. Please. Oh. Okay, I like a full sweet moon, please. There's this coffee shop called Summer Moon Coffee. I'm obsessed with it. Okay, let me tell them I'm doing my live right now. Okay. You guys, I have the best freaking job in the world. Someday when this actually like turns into a paying career, I will love it more than I ever could have, because podcasting, at least the way that I do it, and I don't use AI. I'm just me. If you don't like what I'm talking about, go away, do a summary of the video, pull out the side chatter, pull out the important parts. You can hack my content to serve you however you need to, or just turn me on and listen to me in the background and have some lulls with me. Especially if you now or in the past have survived family court. Because what we are doing collectively, why I am spending time to actually make this video instead of actually just digging in and doing what my lawyer needs me to do today, is because we are the fire break. There's another dad that I'm friends with who's he's a military guy, super higher ranking than my ex, which I love, because I'm like, yeah, he's just a lifer. He has a war room too. And every now and then when I get my war room like up and humming, I like think of him and I'm like, burn the boats. And he said a long time ago, like we first met, he's like, we need a firewall. Like, I don't know what the firewall is. And this is the firewall. Oh, wait. We are the firewall. Okay, so in order to be the firewall, we all need to be educated on how to like get through family court, to get out of family, to prevent going to family court, to get out of family court quickly, or how to hold the bad actors in your case accountable after being in family court. So you've got your register of actions, and you're going to designate the record for the appeal. So It says, although the appellant, me, the person making the appeal, takes the lead, the other side can blah, blah, blah. We're not even going to worry about the respondent because you're probably going to be the appellant. Let them figure it out. Dan, go fuck yourself and figure it out. The reason why you haven't let go of Cornwall yet is because she's still doing all of your bidding, even though you're clearly writing her briefs, which is so wild. You guys, if you haven't seen the Barbie meme defense, please go look at it. It is like the living embodiment of Elle Woods. Like, what? Like, it's hard? Like, what? Like, it's hard? Actually, it's pretty easy when you don't have your 3 kids that you're taking care of. Now, getting out of bed and finding reason to live is hard. But when you remind yourself that you are the generational curse breaker for your family that is in this toxic cycle, and that your act of defiance against a system that is set up to take you down and like bring you under so that it can traffic your kids to the Epstein class, you realize that your act of like literally getting up and getting your war room humming and burning the boats, because once you start this process, there's no going back. Like you have to go all the way through it. Because if you give up, you just can't. There's just no giving up, right? Like I got really close to a suicide attempt and had planned it and was going, and I'm in treatment, don't worry. Because it just got so overwhelming and just so many no's, and I was getting buried and I couldn't keep up with like everything I needed to keep up with. And so like, cause this is literally a full-time job, I had this moment of clarity, and all these survivors reached out to me, other family court survivors, and they said, you can't do this to your kids. And it's just like, no, like I have to be done with this pain. And it's like, and it hit me in that moment. Stop, wait, no. If I check out, my children will have to process this for the rest of their lives. And then if they end up having children, my grandchildren will process this. So my death solves nothing except to allow the trauma to just deluge down into my family lineage. And what's his name? Theo Vaughn said something. And he said, God, I'm so done with this. He's talking about a pain that he's been having. And he goes, I'm so done with this pain. He's like, heal me. He goes, heal me all the way down. Heal me down through my roots. And I heard that and I was like, oh, I've been eating from like a sick tree that I grew into a sick tree, or I'm an apple on a sick tree because of the family lineage that I came from. But my roots, the things that I am wanting to plant, and the children that I am wanting to nurture, and the grandchildren that I am wanting to like grandparent, will not be infected by this. And I have the ability, as part of this still living tree, even though it's diseased, to be the we were calling it like theotropic part of the tree, which like plants are heliotropic, meaning they like naturally turn towards the sun. So even this rose that's been cut, its petals are all still trying to turn towards the sun. It's always trying to turn towards the sun. It seeks light. And we had this conversation about being theotropic, meaning like we're humans seeking to be like God, but we can never be God. So we're just seeking a likeness of it. So I can, by exercising like grace and compassion and forgiveness and diligence and consistency, be theotropic, meaning like turning my face towards God instead of the evil that has come from all this. I can turn my face towards the grace that can come from it. And by letting more light into me be the thing that like undiseases my tree. My roots, my rings of my tree, the rings of my family tree are not going to forget that we had a long season of like illness and hurt and pain and suffering, because the rings of a tree always show what that tree has been through, right? But those inner rings, my babies and my grandbabies, down through my roots, I can bring light into the wounded, injured, hurt, cut, diseased, misaligned, unfunctioning, out of sorts part of my family tree, and the limbs that aren't good. I can bring light into that through like a theotropy, like seeking God and seeking grace and everything, or the universe, divine matrix, whatever you want to put there as your source or your higher power. And I can draw that into myself to heal that core, and to make sure that like everything that happens after me is it's healed in here, and everything that happened out there is not me. Everything that is in here is all I have control over. And all I have control over is my lineage, my babies, my grandchildren. And I'm going to heal, like Theo Vaughn says, all the way down by practicing theotropy, which is like turning my face towards God, turning my heart towards God, turning my heart towards forgiveness, which again, why I'm doing this. It's like, Dan, I'm giving you my whole strategy. If you want to jump in and actually like do the right thing, this is your opportunity. If you want to do it the absolute hard way that ends up with like you in Leavenworth and you behind like bars for like in jail, like we can do it that way too. But nothing is going to enter into this very tight circle of like healed wholeness that I am creating through my actions for my children. Because even though you're the father and you planted the seed, I grew those children in my womb. I nursed my babies, our babies, the babies, those babies at my breast. And I am the one who is taking responsibility for my lineage. You can do whatever you want with your family tree, but what the children that I gave birth to and that will be within my circle of compassion and light will be healed, and they will be healthy, and they will be whole, because I am commanding it and because I'm showing up every fucking day doing the really hard work to do that. And that is what makes me a firewall. That's what makes me a firebreaker. So somehow in the process of family court hell, I have amassed enough of a tribe of other humans who have gone through a season of sickness in their own family trees. And our trees have kind of like, our roots have all kind of, it's like the fungus among us in The Last of Us. We're all connected, but instead of the network like activating a bunch of like zombies, we're like family court survivors activated. And now we have shared all of our strategies and our tools throughout the country so that we have all these little like sleeper fungus cells that we just have to, our mycelium down deep has to connect. And once they all start connecting and we start using strategies, we will rise together. And then by being that firewall, by being that one singular person in a county who actually gets all the way through the 6th district or your district of appeals, who actually gets your case up to the Supreme Court, it sets precedent that then can be cited at the lower court so that the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people coming through family court enter an advocacy space and not an adversarial place. Because the law is not meant to do what it has done to Americans for 50 years. Bad actors have infiltrated. We have a Trojan horse in our society who did this intentionally. There are bad actors. Judges who've changed their names from when they were defending Epstein in these big, corporate defense firms are now installed judges in Orange County. Look them up, Amy Siebel. This is real. And it's like we need good Americans to put on their fire retardant and be the firewall. And once you like have that mentality, anything becomes possible. Okay, so back to the appeals. Designating the record. It's complicated, costly, but you know how to get a lawyer. Okay. Before filing the form to designate the record of appeal, you must serve a copy on the other party's case. So for the appellant, usually you have 10 days after filing your notice of appeal with the trial court to the designated. You usually have 10 days after filing your notice of appeal with the trial court to designate the record. Okay, so we are right within this, like we've got 2 days to designate the record because I filed on the 25th. Let's see. Today's August 4th. If we get the calendar popping open, where's the calendar, guys? Come on, come on, come on. Let's do this. July 25th, 26th, 27th. Oh, wait. Where's my. I'm tracking the demand letters I'm setting, so I've got this here. Again, war room ready. I will also teach you guys the power of the demand letter. So we got all of Cornwall's minions to flip on her by sending demand letters. That was pretty wild because here's the thing. When you offer somebody an out, they're going to take it. Like Her old employees were like, yes, what do we need? How do we fucking dime this lady out faster than you can say, where do I sign? And they didn't want money, nothing. They just wanted to not be in trouble, basically, because they knew what they had done. So I grabbed out the wrong month. This is January. Print yourself out a calendar. That's kind of the way that I have found the best. It works best for me. I don't know why this is like this. You know what I should do? I'm going to staple these while I'm here. So I've got February, March, April, May, June, July. And because again, like if I have it on a calendar and it's written out, it's just so much easier for me. So as soon as you file something, note that and then put like a big thing like 5 days to file X, whatever the next thing is. And then go to that date on your calendar and put a big thing. So like on the 9th of August is the big thing I have to do, or I have by the 10th to file. Actually, if it's due before the date, file it before the date. If you have to wait a statutory amount of days, put it for the day of or the day after. So for example, I have a finding and order after hearing that I have to file our version of or have filed by August 9th is the first date that I can file it. That's a Sunday. Do I think my attorney is going to file that on a Sunday? Probably not. So I have it for first thing Monday morning to be like, hey, just a reminder. And I'll probably send an email Friday and just be like, hi, just a reminder. I'd like to remind you that we need to file that on Monday. Thanks so much. Like, you're the best. Bye. Without being too annoying or taking up too much of their time, because even if they are decreasing their fees, like don't run up their fees. Do as much of this as you can by yourself so you don't have to bother an attorney. Now, let's go figure out when this appeal is due, because we go from the date that the order was entered. So I thought that I only had from June 26th till July 26th to file this, but I showed you all in one of my Instagrams that you always check for tolling deadlines. TOLLING, tolling. And that is where, like, if something happens in the case, it changes the amount of time that you have to respond to that thing. So for example, my final judgment of my divorce was in on June 26th, but I actually had until, are we losing? Am I losing you guys? Looks like the latency is like down. Okay, we're going to keep going. So I thought that I only had until you only get 30 days from the date of the final judgment. So that would have been July 26th. And July 26th was a Sunday. And so I started to file my 6th district appeal on the 24th. I had it written down for the 24th because I didn't want to miss it. And because Monday is the 27th. Even if it falls on a Sunday, I always try to get it the day before, unless you can't file by a certain date. So you got to really pay attention to these timelines. This is how people win and lose in court, especially if you're in trauma and you're not able to track it. So going back to our calendar. Which is really funny. My ex tried to have me deemed a vexatious litigant because I announced that I had a plan to litigate. And he's like, she's planning to litigate for the next 3 years. I'm like, well, for the next 6 months at the very least. Yeah, I got it mapped out. But you cannot deem somebody a vexatious litigant for planning to litigate. This isn't terrorism. It's not like, well, I was planning to blow up the buildings, but I didn't actually blow it up. It's like, well, you were still fucking planning an act of terrorism, so we're going to take you in for that. No, the court doesn't work like that. You actually have to file something. So to take it back to the Barbie meme, I posted a meme about Barbie where I was like, hey, my confidence scares me so much some days that I'll like the things I'll do when I'm mad even scare me, right? But it's like a general commentary on life. And it's not even my face. You don't even know that I'm the one that made that post. It could have been, I could have had a social media manager post it. Like that could be a fake account. There's no way of verifying that that was me because it's not me talking like this. Like this would be a little bit harder for me to deny. Be like, I didn't actually say that on the internet. That's AI. No, it's not. But a Barbie meme, beyond it being ludicrous, you can't validate it, can't whatever. And that's kind of what Commissioner or Judge Vallarta said. She was just like, this is wild. We have now reached a new low of Barbie memes being entered by the abuser as evidence of what we're not sure, but also Barbie memes. Barbie memes are not vexatious litigation. Saying I'm a Barbie girl, that's my defense on the internet is not it's not a legal filing. Saying I'm going to file litigation against somebody is not the same as actually filing litigation against somebody. Like saying I'm going to get Brianna Cornwall put in jail is not the same as getting Brianna Cornwall put in jail. One can lead to the other, but it's not like we just got to use common sense here. And that's what's so crazy and shows that she's so compromised is she's putting her signature on these documents that he's clearly reading. Now, the only two people who can actually testify as to the accuracy of whether or not he is using her as a puppet, which remember, anytime your abuser writes something down in family court and accuses you of something, no matter how crazy it seems, that is them pointing three fingers back at themselves, right? My new thing is like, I'm like, oh, he's just loading the chamber to shoot himself in the foot because he's done for. Like, this is like, these are the death throes of lunacy, where if you string an abuser along for long enough and you stay alive long enough in family court, you're eventually going to come out on the other end because everybody who he was able to initially, all the flying monkeys, he was able to say, she's crazy, she's this. After so many years, they're like, yeah, but you know what? She was a nice person. And even in all of this, she hasn't been nasty to me. She hasn't done, and it's like they see you for who you really are and remember who you really are, and they stop believing any of the nastiness that this person has said about you. Okay, so back to the appeal deadline. So it says for the appellant, you have 10 days after filing your notice of appeal with the trial court. So we filed our notice of appeal on the 24th. So from that day would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, not the 24th, the 25th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That would have been Monday. But the trial court didn't actually accept the notice of appeal until Tuesday, the 28th. So I'm going to go from the 27th, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yikes, that's Thursday. That's tomorrow. That means we need to do this today. And that means that the whatchamacallit are being like real heroes. The people at the appeals court, where like they're a lot less prejudiced, or they're a lot less like, they're more just like, these are the rules. We don't sway either way. So I have until tomorrow to designate the record. Now, actually, that just says you have 10 days after filing your notice of appeal with the file court to designate the record. And we have to serve a copy on the other party. No problem. Okay, now, step 3. The difference between a trial court record and the record on appeal. Oh, here, it says, if you're unsure about your deadline, contact the court in the appellate department of your trial court. That's exactly what we have done, and that's how we know that it's due right now. So the difference between the trial court record and the record on appeal. The trial court record is the complete file of everything that happened in the case. Remember, that's my register of actions. Oh, these are my demand letters. That's my register of actions. I cannot wait to show you guys demand letters and like the chef's kiss. If you've got some rats in your camp and you want them to just find the boats and start running, being like, I want off this ship, you get, you pay hire an attorney on a very limited scope to write you demand letters. And then they're literally just your person who's like drafting stuff and writing it. And just because you send a demand letter does not mean that you're automatically suing. It means that you're preserving your right to sue. So you remember I said we were going to do that and then put on a bra and then go back? Okay. So the difference between the trial court record and the record on appeal. So the trial court record is the complete file of everything has happened during the case, the register of actions. It includes administrative proceedings, evidence, exhibits, initial pleadings, judgments, minutes, motions, orders, transcripts of oral testimony, written decisions. The record of appeal is a selection of documents from the trial court's file, and it can include everything. Okay, the record of appeal is a selection of documents from the trial court file. Okay, so it's just a selection, and it can include everything. Presented at your trial, like legal documents, exhibits, and transcripts of the trial. Now, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Since an appeal is not a new trial, you can't add any new evidence or witnesses. You can only include things that were already a part of the trial court record, which again is why they tried to have me deemed a vexatious litigant, because they got smart to the fact that I was preserving the record, which, guys, like dummies, I'm a freaking historian. Like, you either really thought that I was like fully like I don't even want to say disabled, because I'm like, even though I have a disability, you never once acknowledged it. So you must have actually thought I was like just full blown crazy, would never get my shit together. You knew I didn't have a drug problem or an alcohol problem, but like, did you think I was retarded? Like, and yeah, I'm going to use that hard R, because like you'd actually have to be mentally incapacitated not to see the fraud that was perpetrated. And only an evil person would do this to a person with like a mental disability. So like if somebody's mentally retarded, like my ex-husband's sister, little sister, nobody would do this to her because she would never be in this position, because she wouldn't be able to put up a fight. But if somebody is trying to like defraud you of all of your rights and all of your assets and your children, and put liens on you and just like literally decrease your ability to function, they have to know that you're an actual threat, because they use those coercive techniques of like getting you criminally charged for paying your electric bill and like keeping your children from you for over 100 days after being ordered by the court to reunify, just to drive you crazy and or to try to get you to kill yourself. And so there's no world that exists where they didn't think I would figure this out. They just thought that I would off myself first or not. I mean, I think you thought I wouldn't figure it out. But that goes back to Brianna Cornwall just being a real fucking idiot, and my ex being really fucking evil, because I think at first she probably believed his nice guy act. And now she's probably like, oh, fuck, I see the monster. But you're in too deep. You already also committed a crime with him. So you either both go down, or one of you sends the other under the river, or whatever that saying is. So I don't know how you guys are going to handle this. It's very weird. It's very weird, especially when you take into account like what all of her employees say. So I'm like, I don't know. It'll be really interesting. I can't wait to see their defense strategy. Okay. So the record on appeal is a selection of documents from the trial court's file, and it can include everything presented at your trial, like legal documents, exhibits, and trial transcripts of the trial. Since the appeal is not a new trial, you can't add any new information, evidence, or witnesses. You can only include things that were already part of the trial court record. Why the record on appeal matters. It's important to know a few key things about the record of appeal. What's in the record can be reviewed by the court of appeal. That's the higher judges. Both sides can use it in support of their arguments, and the court will consider it when making its decision. What's not in the record can't be reviewed or considered by the court of appeal. The court won't know it exists and no one can use it to support their arguments. So that's what I learned when I was doing my written stay. I was like, can I just like tag these? Can I like import them straight from the other docket? And she literally said like, no, you have to pretend like you are, when you're going from a superior court, a lower court to like a higher court, you have to literally pretend like you're going from like back in middle school when you had to like clear out your middle school locker and take everything to your high school locker. You're not even in the same school. It's not even like you're getting new classes and you can just go back to that old locker and get your stuff. Or it's like your gym locker. You're like, I got some stuff in my gym locker. I got some stuff in my regular locker. No, you got to get everything out of all of your lockers, pack it up, and then take it to your new school. And then you put it in that locker, so to speak. Now, I mean, really, the whatchamacallit follows you everywhere. Like your academic record follows you. So it's, I suppose the reason why in today's day and age that all that doesn't go with you is because one, records are incredibly expensive to store in hard versions. And two, somebody would have to pay for the metadata for all that to be saved. So I think it really just comes down to a cost issue. And these corrupt lawyers know that, which is why it's actually very, very hard to go back and litigate something unless you have everything preserved in advance, which is what I did, because as this was happening, that was literally all I could do to stay alive, was just, I was like, I'm filing it. I'm putting it in a binder. Like, do you see all these binders behind me? If you've been on the ride for a minute, that's what I spent the last 8 months doing, is I just print, put it in the binder, print, put it in the binder until I could wrap my brain around it. Okay. So if the appellant doesn't provide enough information in the record for the court to fully review an argument, the court may reject that argument. That makes sense. Deciding what to include in the record. So think of the record of appeal like a package you're sending to the Court of Appeal. You and the other parties want to include everything related to the issues being appealed. You're giving the Court of Appeal all the information it needs to decide if the trial court made a legal mistake. Now, look back at your trial and decisions that are being appealed. What part of the trial court's record will best explain those decisions to the Court of Appeals? Because remember, not everything needs to go in there. Okay, now look back at your trial court. And okay, we just said that. Sorry. Remember, the Court of Appeals can only review what's included in the record. So when you're putting it together, make sure to include everything related to the issues being appealed. Each party should choose the materials that support their argument, whether they're for or against the trial court's decision. Now, I would just argue, I'm like, put it all in, everything from there, and let's bring in the other two underlying cases because it's all relevant. But it might not, they might not go for that. So when you're designating the record on appeal, you need to decide, one, what materials to include on the record, and two, how to send those materials to the Court of Appeal. If you are the appellant, me, use appellant's notice designating record on appeal. So that's form APP003. This is just for California, remember. And then if you're the respondent, use the other one. Keep in mind, only appellants have to designate the record on appeal. So that Dingleberry might want to put something on. I'm not even going to go into that and do any more explaining because that's giving him ammunition. But the materials you select should be grouped into 3 categories: documents, oral proceedings, and exhibits. So documents, oral proceedings. This one's big because this is how they got my domestic violence evidence excluded, because they did an oral motion in limine. And then exhibits, that's like all of your evidence. How to include the documents in the record on appeal. The record on appeal must include documents that were filed in the trial court. Okay. The appellant usually decides how the trial court prepares and sends these documents to the Court of Appeals. The appellant usually decides how the trial court prepares and sends these documents, but both sides can add documents to the record for the court review. Okay, the record on appeal must include, okay, so I'm the one that has to go into my register of actions by tomorrow and designate the record, and then I'm going to write the form down, form AP-003. appellant's record designation. Now, you can see why if the opposing counsel didn't win attorney's fees in like a divorce, they wouldn't want the opposing party to keep doing this. Brianna Cornwall got real fucking silly because she, and again, if she wants to just, if you want to invalidate any of the stipulations where you're going to ask for your attorney's fees to be paid, then let's go back to those falsified stipulations where you said that neither party should get attorney's fees for the divorce, which was your way of fucking me over. But now it's like really fucking you over because this thing's going to last a while. Also, what's crazy is you're 45. So if, again, random thought, you were thinking about having a baby with my ex-husband, that would have been such a blessing, except you're a monster and I wouldn't want my children to just like share lineage with you. But you're 45. You're running out of time. You took 3 years of my fertility, so turnabout sounds like fair play, which means that if you stay on his case as his attorney and get pregnant, even though you're fucking old, which my grandma had a baby at 45, perfectly healthy, so you're never too old. I'm just being a troll right now because I really don't like you. But ladies, if you're 45 and you want to have a baby, go do you. I'm just realizing you stole 3 years of my fertility. You cost me a baby that I miscarried. And you've cost me countless relationships and countless opportunities to have peace in my life and the ability to move on while I'm still fertile, while you know, and my ex knows I want to have more children. So if you stay, Brianna, on the case with Dan as his attorney of record, because this is a family law case, and you got pregnant with his baby, would that not prove that you extorted me the whole time? Or would it just prove that you had a relationship at some point during these ongoings? That's interesting. I'll have to ask all the people who are turning on you via my demand letters if they're aware of any personal relationship or any indicator that there's a personal relationship, because then that could get you removed from the case. And then you could carry on having a relationship with him if you really think the juice is worth the squeeze on that. Hopefully you don't have a baby and then end up in an incarcerated situation or in some weird situation where then CPS comes and takes your baby. Because man, wouldn't that be fucked? Huh. But again, as they say, turnabout is fair play. Anyways, that was a real mind bender that she stole my years of fertility. So the only way that I could on a personal level get back at her for doing this, if not for her own greed, but maybe she really's got a thing for monsters. Maybe she's, guys, maybe Cornwall's got a kink for getting choked and raped. Like, we don't know. That's alleged. I don't know. I know I don't like it. And I know that my ex-husband demonstrates those proclivities, but maybe that's her thing. And maybe she wants to have a baby. But the longer she's his attorney and not getting attorney's fees from me, the longer this appeal process can drag out. So if you're getting screwed in this type of a situation, this is also a way to get a little bit of karmic justice. Okay. So we're deciding how these records are going. Choosing what documents to send. So documents you must include. Some documents are required by the court, like the final judgment. We've already provided that. Or order being appealed and certain motions. Okay, we already have the final judgment and the order being appealed. Yes and yes. And then you can find a list of required documents at the court or online. See California Rules of Court 8.122b. Okay, we're going to click on that. And we will come back to that in a minute. Oh, nope, it just popped us right over there. Okay. Documents that should be included. So must is you have to, should is if you want to. Include any document that relate to the issue or decision of the appeal. If a document, it is especially important for the appellant to include all relevant. I think some might help the other side. If the court doesn't have enough information, it may reject the appellant's argument. Everyone involved in the appeal should carefully review the court's record and include all documents and evidence they want to use in their briefs and arguments. Only documents in the record can be used to support a legal argument. Okay. Deciding, again, this is why they will deem you vexatious and why the best move to make is just making declarations before the court. You're like, I declare that on this date, all these things happen and you need to take notice of it. I declare that on these dates, it's like an affidavit. It's a sworn statement that is no different than somebody testifying under oath. So if you go in and have like a trial, it's the same as that. And that actually, the judge told me that. I was like, Your Honor, I don't know what that means. She's like, it's the equivalent of if we had you here testifying. I was like, oh, good to know. Okay, deciding how to send the documents. Every case is different, so both sides can choose how the documents will be prepared and sent to the Court of Appeals. I've already like gone through the process of setting up my e-filing system through the 6th District, and I believe my attorney has one too, or is paralegal, whatever. And those are like, you can e-file. Attorneys are required; they have to e-file, at least in my state. Pro se, I could just mail it in, but that takes longer. Okay, so clerk's transcripts. What can the respondent do? If the appellant chooses a clerk's transcript, the respondent can add documents, exhibits, or oral proceedings that support their case. Respondents. If the appellant requests a clerk's transcript, the respondent opts for an appendix. The appeal will use an appendix unless the appellant was granted a fee waiver. Yes, I was granted a fee waiver. What? That's the good thing about being broken, homeless, and living in like fly-by-night hotels so that I'm not on Skid Row. See, everything works out. Is there a court form? Yes, there are 2 forms, APP3. The cost depends on the number of pages requested. The appellant is responsible for paying the trial court clerk to copy, organize, and send the documents to the Court of Appeals. The trial court clerk can provide them an estimate. Well, I got a fee waiver. Now, here's the best part. If he is found guilty and we are granted attorney's fees, he then, I think, has to pay these. And then later, if I end up getting like money in a settlement or anything like that, then I can recoup some of those. Okay. How do the parties get a copy? The trial court clerk will send copies to any party that requested a paid. The trial court clerk will send copies to any party that requested and paid for one. Other parties can copy or borrow the appellant's copy once the opening brief is filed. But how do we request copies of what? Clerk's transcript. Now that's interesting because I don't know that they have a clerk transcript. I think that's like the whole thing that we were fighting about in the writ part. Appendix. An appendix is a collection of documents from the trial court file that one of the parties in the appeal prepares instead of the court clerk. An appendix is a collection of documents from the trial court file that one of the parties in the appeal prepares instead of the court clerk. It must follow specific formatting rules. If both parties agree on the contents, they can create a joint appendix. Okay, so that would be like if I was going to just take my register of actions and then, use my Sharpie and go like, I want all these in. I'm just going to go with everything. I want it all in. I want everything, anything, all of it. Put it in there. I want it all. You save money by not paying the trial court to prepare the documents. However, putting together an appendix takes a lot of time and effort. Either party can create an appendix. If the appellant asks for a clerk's transcript, the respondent opts for an appendix, the appeal will proceed using the appendant. Okay, so if I ask for the court's transcript, but the respondent opts for an appendix, it will proceed using the appendix, unless the appellant has a fee waiver for the clerk's transcript. I do have a fee waiver for the clerk's transcript. God, you're so good. You're so good. You are so good. You're so good. So good. So good. The reason why that's important is because, of course, my ex would go for an appendix, but he would have had to have filed the appendix because he's still filing. He's still apparently paying his attorney because they got all the money out of me that they were ever going to get. So the respondent may designate an appendix and indicating they choose the appendix. If the appellant creates an appendix, so if I create an appendix without agreement of the contents, the respondent can submit their own appendix and add their additional documents. The respondent may designate an appendix using that and indicating they choose. Oh, this is going to be so much work for them. So if both parties file a joint appendix, they must also file a stipulation which tells the court they agree on the appendix contents. If they file separate appendices, no joint agreement is required. Fine. So that means If you want to do the work and I do the work, the courts get 2 copies. That's why it's just so much better just to do everything and just be like, bring it on in. It's like, roll that beautiful beam footage. Let's play it all. Like, I didn't do anything wrong in this case. I want everything on this case. They don't. They want specific things excluded, which is why I would never agree to whatever appendix they put in. I would be like, absolutely not. I'm doing my own appendix and you do your own appendix. And then the trial court or the appeal court has to look at both. But because I have a fee waiver, I can just request the clerk's transcript of everything, which means everything goes from what I'm reading. Okay, so if the appellant, me, asks for the clerk's transcript, but the respondent chooses an appendix, the appeal will continue with the appendix unless the appellant has a fee waiver. This applies even if the appellant initially requested something else. Okay, so like if I had initially requested an appendix. So basically, if I ask for a clerk's transcript, but the respondent chooses an appendix, the appeal will continue with the appendix unless the appellant has a fee waiver. Wow, God is so good. Let me just go ahead and pop that in there. Let me just go ahead and pop that in there. Oh, cool. I've got a mammogram scheduled. Don't you love checking your texts in the middle of something? Okay. Why is this not? Paste. Paste. Copy. Paste. Okay. For a joint appendix, the appellate pays or both parties agree on how to split the cost. If each party prepares their appendix, they each pay for their own. How do the parties get a copy? The party who prepares the appendix must serve copies on all other parties of the case. Okay. Whole court trial. What is it? It is the complete record of all documents from the trial court organized as filed. See your register of actions. Advantage. It's the fastest and cheapest options for getting the documents to the Court of Appeals. And the trial court clerk handles page numbering and creating indexes. Rules. Only some courts of appeal allow the use of the whole trial court file. The 2nd, 5th, and 6th appellates don't allow parties to use the whole court trial. Fuck! That's my fuck. Fuck. I'm in the 6th appellate district. So, District 1, District 3, District 4, District 7, District 8, District 9. You guys get to do the whole trial court if you're in the state of California. The 5th, the 6th, and the 2nd, you're booked. In other districts, I'm going to put a note down for myself. Can somebody in the comments look up what those districts are? Because now I'm actually curious to see if that's where they're trafficking kids, because that would be a really great way to block 2nd, 5th, 6th. Because, of course, you guys, we're always doing our opposition research, trying to figure out how to take down the Epstein class who's using our family courts to traffic kids. Can't use whole court file in appeals. Okay. I actually think LA is the 4th, so I'm going to look those up. Let me look them up really quick so none of us are curious. What are the court appeal districts in California? A weird ass way of asking that, but oh, my mind has been wandering so much so to actually like train it on something is like kind of. Here we go. First, Contra Costa, Marin, Napa, San Francisco, San Solano, and Sonoma. So you guys, you can have the whole record. 2nd district is Amadaro, Calveras, El Dorado, Fresno, Glen, Inyo, Madero, Mariposa, Merced, Modoc, Mono, Nada, Placer, Pumas, San Joaquin, Shasta, Sierra, Cisco, Yerba, and actually I've got some cases I'm falling out of Shasta. Interesting. And Mono. Interesting. That's an interesting connection that I'm going to earmark for later research. 3rd district, Southern California. Oh, this is actually good to know. So you guys can take the whole thing. Los Angeles, Orange, boom, Orange County families, Riverside, boom, San Diego, San Bernardino, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, Ventura. I'm following a shit ton of cases in those districts. So 3rd district, you guys get to use the whole trial record. Awesome. 4th district, far northern, Butte, Colosa, Glen, Humboldt, Lake, Lessian, Mendocino, Modoc, Napa, Plumas, Shasta, Siskiyou, Trinity, Tulum, Yolo, Chico. Hold on, didn't we already, like, how are some of those twice? Didn't we already say, like, the 2nd district and the 4th district? We said some of those, didn't we? Am I on drugs? No, I'm not. Modoc. Shasta, Siskiyou, Tulum, Yoba, Yuma. Yeah, like, look, what the what? Okay, always, I guess, check your. Let's go straight to the Court of Appeals. Because you know what? It's not that I don't trust AI, it's just that I don't trust AI. So I always trust but verify. Because the 2nd, 5th, and 6th are the ones that can't. So let's see what this map brings up. It's because of the war in Iran. Okay, so these are the districts. So the 2nd Appellate Division is 1, Division 6, district, 3rd district, 4th district, 6th. So I'm in the 6th, so we can't use it. Where's the 5th? All these, okay. This is an interesting way to like put the geography over alleged areas that they are trafficking children through family court. And then 2nd appellate is pink. Los Angeles. Wait, what? What? 4th. What? So the 2nd, 5th, and 6th. Also, that's weird how they like number these. If we're the 6th, like why is it geographically like that? So the 4th is down here. They can. Okay, so San Diego, you guys can. Orange. Yeah. Okay, so that's good news. Cases brought in. I'll have to tell my families down there. 3rd, you can. Okay. Yeah, look at this. They like totally see, always double check AI. And then the 1st appellate. 1st appellate, all of these counties, Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendolina, Lake, Sonoma, Napa, Marin, Solano, Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, San Francisco. All of those can bring in the whole court record. Where's the 3rd? All of these, Siskiyou, Modoc. So all the green, all the blue. And then all the yellows. So it's really just these areas that can't. Huh. It's interesting. So this is like where I don't know if that's like because the bulk of the population is there or what, but very interesting. So if we were like going to look at it on a map, the 5th, 6th, and 2nd. So the 2nd is pink. The 5th is purple. The 6th is like lavender. Those are the ones where you can't bring the whole court district in, can't bring the whole record in. Interesting, right? It's just something to think about. Like I always like to like look at the geography of something to try to figure it out. Okay. And we're back to the record. So complete record, it's the fastest and cheapest. Okay, so I'm in the 6th district, so I can't use it. In other districts, all parties must agree in writing to use the whole trial court file and the file agreement with the notice designating the record on appeal. Cost. The appellant pays for the clerk to send the file to the Court of Appeal, and the clerk provides an estimate for cost. How do the parties get a copy? Clerk sends a copy of the index to the parties, and any party can request specific documents for a fee. I wonder if this is the docket, like, this is the register of actions. So, how to include oral proceedings in the record on appeal. If the argument in an appeal refers to anything said during a trial or hearing, the record on appeal must include those oral proceedings. If the oral proceedings aren't included, the Court of Appeal might not consider the issues discussed during the trial or hearing. However, the court can still review the issues that don't involve oral proceedings. Since every case is different, the parties can choose how to create a record of the oral proceedings for the appeal. So, there's the reporter's transcript. What is it? This is a word-for-word written transcript record of what was said in court, prepared by a court reporter. Rules. The appellant can request a reporter's transcript if a court reporter was present during the trial. They must specify which parts of the proceedings to include. If there was no court reporter, this option isn't available. Cost. It depends on the number of days of transcript requested and how long each session lasted. The appellant has to pay a deposit, but fee waivers don't cover this expense because the court reporter works independently, not for the court. There's a fund to help cover transcript costs, transcript reimbursement fund, but it's limited and not guaranteed. I've been dealing with those motherfuckers. Just you wait till I get a second to do a little rebuttal on them because they are part of the problem. What can the respondent do? The respondent can review the appellant's transcript request and ask to include any additional parts of the proceedings by filing their form within 10 days. Okay. If the appellant chooses a settled statement to provide a reporter's transcript at their own expense by filing within 20 days after receiving the appellant's settled statement, the court clerk or court reporter can provide a fee estimate, and the respondent usually needs to pay a deposit up front. This is super interesting because I don't know if you guys remember during my writ and stay, we discovered that there were three versions of the transcript from the morning of April 16th for the trial that I was excluded from. Now, what's wild AF is that they all say something different. They're all malarkey, sign different, stamp different. They're wild. But most insanely of all, Ann Hall, who was the court reporter, has even said to her boss at Cypress Court Reporting that she got asked to leave early, and they all thought that was super weird. And then she went and edited her transcript 3 times. So bizarre. Like, that is going to be, and I obviously filed that for the appeal. So that's on the record. So we're going to cover that during the appeal, but interesting. It's like interesting choice to have the court transcriptionist that you hired there and then to have her leave afterwards. Okay. So how do the parties get a copy? The party who pays for the reporter's transcript gets a copy. The others can buy a copy from the trial court. Agreed statement. What is it? An agreed statement is a summary of some or all of the trial court proceedings prepared by both parties. It can take some time to create. How's it used? It can replace a reporter's transcript for oral proceedings or a clerk's transcript for documents. It's most often used when a reporter's transcript isn't available. Okay, that's our case. And is less commonly used as a full substitute for the record on appeal. It can replace a reporter's transcript for oral proceedings or a clerk's transcript for documents. So we don't have a reporter's transcript for what happened in the trial. All parties must agree on what the statement says and sign it. Well, I wasn't even there. That's the whole point. They excluded me. The agreed statement must include basic details about the case, like what it's about and how the trial court decided the issue is being appealed. If used instead of a clerk's transcript, the documents that are required to be included in a clerk's transcript must be attached. The appellant can file the agreed statement with the notice of appeal. We can't do an agreed statement because I wasn't there. I was excluded. If more time is needed, the parties can agree to extend the deadline. Sure, I'll extend the deadline. I got nothing but time for this bullshit. And Brianna Cornwall, if you've decided that you really want to go all in on this Dan guy, you're 45. You probably only have a couple of eggs left, a couple of cycles left. So again, sub out now, and you could still date him and try to save yourself through whatever weird agreement you guys have. Otherwise, let's go, baby. We have come full circle, right? Now the army is now behind me. I've got all the time in the world. The agreed statement, and I don't have my kids, so again, I got all the time in the world. I do this in therapy. The agreed statement must be filed within 40 days of the notice of appeal. If the parties can't agree, they may need to use a settled statement instead. We can't use a settled statement because there's no settle. There's no agreed statement. And it says they can file the agreed statement if more times. The agreed statement must be filed within 40 days of the notice of appeal. If the parties can't agree, they may need to use a settled statement instead. Okay, we'll read that next. Is there a court form? No, there's no specific court form for an agreed statement. Cost. There is no extra court fee to file an agreed statement. Cost. There's no extra court fee. Okay, legal fees. Okay. What is a settled statement? Now, I've heard of these. A settled statement is a summary of what happened during the trial court's oral proceedings, including the facts and how the case was decided. The appellant prepares it. It can take a lot of time to complete. I can't prepare a settled statement because I wasn't there. That's the whole fucking point, you guys. I was excluded from my own trial where my life was literally just given away. My assets were taken. What the fuck? How is this America? How did they not think I would figure this out? How is it used? It can be used instead of a reporter's transcript for the record of oral proceedings, especially when no transcript is available. It's often included in the record on appeal for this reason. Okay. Unlike an agreed statement, all parties don't need to agree on a settled statement. However, there are rules about when it must be submitted, and sometimes court permission is required. If oral proceedings weren't recorded, the appellant doesn't need court permission to use a settled statement. If the appellant has a fee waiver, they also don't need permission. If oral proceedings were recorded and the appellant doesn't have a fee waiver, they must file a motion explaining how using a settled statement will save money and must not be too burdensome. Fuck yes! Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Because a settled statement means, because I have all these, I have a fee waiver, so I don't need permission. And I already have a letter from the court saying that the recordings, the oral proceedings weren't recorded, then I don't need the court's permission to do a settled statement. Wow. That's good. What can the respondent do? They can review and suggest changes. You can review and suck my dick. To the appellant's settled statement, they must file objections and propose changes within 20 days after being served with a statement. Oh, here we go. Sorry, guys. I shouldn't gloat. God doesn't like a gloater. Sorry, God. They must file objections or propose changes within 20 days of being served with a statement. If there is a disagreement on something important to the appeal, the judge can hold a hearing and decide what the final settlement statement will be. Is there a court form? Yes. The appellant uses form APP014 for the proposed statement on appeal. And the respondent uses form, whatever, fuck off. Cost. There's no extra court fee to file a settled statement, but parties may have to pay if they hire a lawyer to help them. Okay, so now here's the question about the settled statement. We can either use the reporter's transcript, how to include oral proceedings. So we only have oral proceedings we only have court reporter records for that case for 1 day. So 4/16/2026 court transcripts. There's 3 versions, which I've already asked the trial court to rule on. I'm like, you guys want to settle up on which one of these is the real one? Because you really fucked with it. You really kind of, but I got all 3. So that's going to be weird for you. And I also submitted all 3 to the lower court to stamp them into the record for judicial notice. So the lower court is aware that they fucked around and now they're finding out. So that's interesting. But that only goes from like 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. when mom excluded. So we can submit the oral proceedings on the record. So we're going to do that. So we're going to have oral. So we will have oral proceedings. And then we will have 3 versions of the transcript, 3 transcripts. So normally you would only have 1 transcript, but I caught them in real time while doing my written stay on being excluded from the trial in the first place, saying like, hey, don't enter a final judgment in this because I wasn't even there. How could I have been there? The 3 transcript versions, all different. So we will have those all entered. And then the court is going to somehow have to decide which is the valid one. But I think right then and there, it's like part of the appeal is, gosh, this gnat is like fucking Brianna Cornwell. It's like, go the fuck away. You're so annoying. 3 transcript versions. If the oral proceedings aren't included, the Court of Appeal might not consider the issues discussed during the trial. If the oral proceedings aren't included, the Court of Appeals might not consider the issues discussed during the trial or hearing. That would be literally fucking everything. If the argument in the appeal refers to anything said during a trial or hearing, the record on appeal must include those oral proceedings. This is wild. So, how do you, what is the, where are there? Okay, so I was excluded. So since every case is different, the parties can choose. Really interesting. If there was no court reporter, this option isn't available. Okay, so that's reporter's transcript. Wait, let's highlight that. If there was no reporter available. So then we're going to have to do a settled statement. That's wild, you guys. Okay, agreed statement. We aren't going to do an agreed statement. So we have to do a settled statement. So a settled statement is a summary of what happened during the trial court's oral proceedings, including the facts and how the case was decided. The appellant prepares it. It can take a lot of time. Well, my settled statement is going to be real quiet because okay, there is only a transcript of the first 2 hours of the trial on 4/16/26. Interestingly, suspiciously, there are 3 versions of the transcript. We caught the court swapping out in real time that each indicate a very different version where the oral record of the proceedings is stored or if one even exists. Wow, you guys, this is wild. No sugar added. Wow, that's wild. Okay. So a settled statement is a summary of what happened during the trial court's oral proceedings, including the facts and how the case was decided. The appellant prepares it. It can take a lot of time to complete. How is it used? It can be used instead of a reporter's transcript for the record of oral proceedings, especially when no transcript is available. So what if, unlike an agreed statement, all parties don't need rules about when it must be submitted, and sometimes court permission is required. If oral proceedings weren't required, the appellant doesn't need court permission to use a settled statement. That's going to be so crazy because if the appellant has a fee waiver, they also don't need permission. The oral proceedings were recorded and the appellant doesn't have a fee waiver, they must file. Oh my gosh, the court is going to have to cough up. Wow, this is wild. The Superior Court is going to have to cough up the oral recording I've been trying to get from them since 4/16/26 to understand how my estate was stolen and my children were kidnapped in broad daylight. Wow. So the court itself, I knew we were exposing corruption here. This is wild. I'll pull up the document so you guys can look through these so we can remember what happened here. So unlike an agreed statement, all parties don't need to agree unless there's rules. So I'm going to go back and click on that. So what can the respondent do? We don't fucking care what you can do. Is there a court form? Of course there is. So the appellant uses form for the proposed settlement on appeal. Let's see. Hopefully that opens up a separate window. Please open up a separate window. Yes. Fantastic. Okay. So these are the forms. I need to fill that out. Boop. And then, okay, and let me share this tab. Designating the record. This is what the form looks like. Pretty, budget a couple hours for your attorney to fill this out. Be prepared to pay them for that. Okay, get after it. So, wow, department. Wow, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be in appeals. And then here's the appellant's proposed settlement statement. So that's a 5-page document. Okay. So those are the two things that I have to served. Got to complete them, get them to my lawyer, have them served and filed by tomorrow, August 6th. Is there a court form? Yes. Okay. Cost. There's no extra court fee to file a settled statement, but parties may have to pay if they hire a lawyer to help. Okay. How to include exhibits. Exhibits from the trial court, such as photos or documents admitted as evidence, can be part of the record of appeal. However, they are not automatically included. To include an exhibit in the record, the party must list it in the materials for the clerk's transcript when they file their designation of record on appeal. It's important to note as its number so the clerk can find it. If a party is preparing an appendix for appeal, they can include any exhibits from the trial court's record. If an entire trial court file is being used, all exhibits will automatically be part. Note, if a designated exhibit was returned to a party after the trial, that party must return it to the trial court to arrange to send it to the Court of Appeals. Cool. So like Cornwall, all of your false evidence that you're going to want to, oh wait, sorry, I'm still on the wrong page. Go back. Sorry guys. Share step by step. This is how you're going to have to go back to your exhibits to get them back on the record of appeal. Okay. How to file notice designating the record on appeal with the trial court. Once a party decides what information to include in the record of appeal, got it, they need to follow the court's process to designate it. Here are the steps. Complete the notice designating the record on appeal form. Guys, this is why when I did my written stay, the first thing I did as soon as I got all those stamped at the 6th district level was go down to the lower court and filed them in for judicial notice. Didn't ask the court to make a motion, didn't ask the court to rule on it. I just said hey, this is here now. Maybe you might want to take a look before you rule on anything. They didn't. Now it's the higher court goes hold up. You mean to tell us she did a written stay? We asked you guys to give us some reason why you did that. You did. We didn't review her most recent documents. We made a quick decision instead. And then after that, you still stuck with your final judgment because, of course, you committed the crime. You got to like stick to it. Think, how can we really punish her? Well, we can get $114,000 from her right now. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. That's a certain level of evil. But then I gave you notice in early June and you still did it. So that's kind of like, yeah, we knew what we were doing was wrong. We did it anyways. Let that sink in. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they had done was wrong. They still went through with it anyways. That's like planning to kill somebody and actually killing them. That's like planning to sue the shit out of the government and actually suing them. Wild. Complete the notice designating the record on appeal. This form tells the court which materials to send to the Court of Appeals. Okay. Serve on all parties before filing the notice designating the record on appeal from the court. It must be served on all parties. This gives them the chance to review materials. Okay, but like, didn't we say like how soon we had to? 3, filing the original form and proof of service with the trial. Some courts require e-filing, others person, some allow both. If filing on paper, keep an extra copy and have the trial court stamp it as proof. Okay, so we have to serve it on the other person, which means we need to serve these 2 forms on Satan by tomorrow. Then file the proof of service and the forms with the appeals court. Okay, so complete the notice designating the record on appeal. This form tells the trial court which materials to send to the Court of Appeal. Before filing the notice, designating the record on appeal from the court, it must be served on all parties in the case. Okay. Then file the original form and proof of service with. Oh, so you don't have to wait. You just be like, you serve it on them, and then you file it with the other people. Cool. Respondent's opportunity to review the record on appeal. The appellant is the first to designate the record on appeal. The other parties have 10 days to look over the list of materials starting from when the appellant files it with the trial court. The respondent can add evidence from the trial court record, but can't take anything off the appellant's list. I love that. I love it. Love it. So basically, I will put all your fuckery on the record, and then you can't take any of it off as long as I let you know that I'm putting all your nonsense onto the record. Who gets a copy of the record of appeal? The Court of Appeal always gets a copy. The appellant pays for the record, so they get a copy. They can choose to get it electronically. Both. Okay. The respondent doesn't get a copy automatically. They can pay to get one or ask for it. After the record is filed with the Court of Appeals, it becomes public and anyone can pay to make a copy. The respondent can also borrow the appellant's copy after the first brief is filed, but pay any cost and returning it. Wow. This is why we have to now show the court what you and your corrupt attorney did in broad daylight, under the color of law. And then if you want to do anything about it, you have to ask me politely for those records. Or just like everybody else who wants to look at them, general public, pay for them. That's pretty incredible. Okay, so does anybody have time for me to go through the Sherry Perlman stuff? Or should we save that for another day? Because what I need to do is actually file this into the record. So let me get a screenshot of this. Screenshotting. Drag that. Come on. No. Ugh. Why is this not doing that? Please put it in the comments, be like, hey. I hate it when my computer doesn't do what I'm asking it to. It's because it's overloaded. Holy cow, that's wild, you guys. We learned so much now. We just learned so much. Okay, what's next? The trial court makes the record on appeal and sends it to the Court of Appeals. Depending on how the record works, they will either let the appellant know when their copy is ready to pick up or mail it to them. If the respondent ordered a copy, they will also be told. Both parties will get a notice with the due date for the appellant's opening brief. This is the schedule for when all the briefs need to be filed in the appeal. Wow. So during an all parties must file documents with both the trial court and the Court of Appeal. These documents give the courts the information they need to handle the appeal, learn at trial, and make more decisions. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to hop off because I actually have to do this by tomorrow. So I hope we learned something. And I'm going to wait to go over what the fee arbitration actually said. I'm so glad that I waited to do that because this has to go into the record immediately. And I want to file it into the record and then make my ex beg his attorney to show him it because he doesn't get copies of this and she gatekeeps everything. Which I think she even went into he was pro se for a while and now he's back to paying her. And so when you go pro se, it automatically adds you to the e-service. And that's why I always get their shit, but I don't they only give me copies of their stuff, but not the filed stuff. You only get the pre-service, because you have to use a third party. So anyways, I think she removed him so he's not getting it anymore, which only further shows that hey, if you're upset that your client's seeing something, doesn't that show that you and your client have a conflict of interest? I'm not the person you're mad at. You're mad at yourself. Okay. With that said, we will come back another day and do our fee arbitration breakdown. But whoa. Whoa. Bye.